Last week's Parsha ended, close to the end, with a simple but very interesting verse. Vayashav Avraham el na'arav, vayakumu vayalchu yachdav el Be'er Sheva, vayashav Avraham be'Be'er Sheva. Avram returned from the binding of Isaac, one of the most intense moments of faith in human history, and he went with his servant to live in Beersheba. Now, a few verses later, this week's Parsha, Hayei Sarah, we read, Vatamat Sarah b'Kiryat Arba hi Hebron. Sarah passed away in Kiryat Arba. Now, for those who know the map of Israel, Beersheba and Hebron are not right next door to each other. The little geographical detail raises a big question. Why weren't they together? Ramban struggles with this point in his commentary, as do many of our scholars. He says, V'lo yitachen be'enai sheba me'ir acheret el Hebron. He tries to find a way around it. So he says, yeah, he stopped in Hebron. I mean, he had to check his holdings, right? He had holdings in Hebron. But then he went back to Hebron, and they were there. So he went from Beersheba to Hebron earlier, and then he went out to work. She died. He found out that she died, and he came right from work, somewhere in the fields. It's possible, and there are many people that say it. But there are also many people that say the concept of the akedah, or the binding. Remember, Sarah wasn't asked whether she wanted to allow her only son to go be sacrificed. This wasn't something that she was given a choice about. And when she heard about it afterwards, the Midrash says, more than one Midrash says, she died. And that's why he was still in Beersheba at that point and she was home. But perhaps that physical separation reflects something even deeper. The aftermath of the Akedah. How about if we think about this emotional journey that they went through? Maybe Avram couldn't come back and face her right away. Maybe he himself had trouble coming back. So we need to think about spiritual meaning of place, how our locations can mirror our inner states. Do we need to be separate? Do we need to be together? And when can we not face what we have? The Orach Chaim adds a deeper layer, or a more esoteric layer. When the Torah says Vatamat Sarah, he reminds us not to read it as an end, because tzadikim b'mitatam kruyim chayim. The righteous are called living even after their death. He plays beautifully with the phrase B'Kiryat Arba, the city of four, or the city of the giant, depending who you ask, explaining that Sarah's passing is the separation of her holy essence from the four physical foundations of the world. Yet even in her departure, Hebron, whose name means connection, remains the symbol of her continuing influence. Sarah transforms from body to spirit, from place to presence. Her life's work still animates those around her through the people that she influenced in Kiryat Arba, which is chibur, connection, Hebron. Then just a few verses later, the Torah turns our attention to another kind of connection. Avram's old. He's had a hard, long life, a good life in general, but definitely with some challenges, as we saw. And Avram decides it's time to make sure that before he passes on, his son will have a wife. So he takes his servant and he says, go back to my family, go back to where I came from, and get me a wife for for Yitzchak, and bring her here. Bring her back to the land of Israel. He sends him, and the servant says, but what if she doesn't want to come with me? Now you might think, what does that mean? Maybe she doesn't want to come with me. Is that a thing? Does she have a choice in the matter? And here's where we understand the beauty and the depth of Judaism, even in those ancient times. Today we may take it for granted, but in those times, women were often property. And when Avram responds to his servant. He says, "V'im lo toveh ha'isha lalechet acharecha v'niketa mishvuatai." If the woman says she's not going to come with you, you're released from the oath. Here again, we see how the Torah uses place and choice to teach ethics. Avram tells the servant to return to his homeland, but if he can't bring the woman back to the land of Israel, and if she does not agree to come out of her own free will, then there's no marriage. Sadia Gaon explains that this clause, "Ulai lo toveh ha'isha lalechet acharai," perhaps the woman will not desire to follow, isn't hypothetical courtesy. It's legal recognition. Before betrothal, a woman may stipulate that she wishes to remain in her own land. Only after marriage, when mutual responsibilities are established, is she expected to share in her husband's community, provided the place preserves human dignity with a synagogue, a healer, and a bathhouse. From the very origins of our story, Torah embedded women's consent into the architecture of Jewish law and life. And indeed, that principle appears explicitly when even Rivka's family, who are not known to be great tzaddikim, when they have to agree to send Rivka, they said, "Vayamru nikra lana'ara v'nishala et piha." Let us call the girl and ask her reply. Radak explains that by this point, the marriage to Yitzchak was practically decided. We know the whole story at the well, where she agreed to go beyond and make sure to give water to everybody, to the camels as well. Her family probably believed it was God's will, and they were getting rich off of it also, don't forget. But still, they said, we can't agree to it unless she says yes. Radak reminds us that in Jewish law forbids forcing marriage on anyone. In Kedushin 41a, it codifies it clearly. A father may not marry off his daughter unless she is mature enough to say with understanding, "I wish to marry so-and-so." All these stories, Sarah and Hebron, Rivka and Aram, speak to a shared theme: respect for individuality and choice. Sarah's connection endures precisely because it was freely lived. Avram's integrity lies in his faith that covenant never comes through coercion. Rivka's greatness blossoms in her willingness to choose, her "I will go" moment. And so we arrive at the heart of this Parsha's message. Divinity does not erase human will. It sanctifies it. God's plan unfolds through people who act consciously, who are asked and who answer. Whether it's Avram's Hineni or the Jewish people's Na'aseh v'nishma, when they receive the Torah. It is only through listening to Sarah's silent legacy, to Rivka's clear voice, that the covenant advances. In our lives too, holiness begins where respect for others' choice is honored. To value someone's opinion, to make space for their desire and consent, is itself a form of faith. It affirms that each soul carries its own path forward. Each soul must have meaning. Just as the Torah preserved Rivka's right to choose, so must we learn to ask, to wait, and to listen when others speak their will. I wish us all that we continue in that vein and make sure to listen to the other people, hear what they're saying, and whether we agree or not, respect them for their decisions.